concise information, offer more in terms of actions, options, so doing the scenario planning and showing how that might offer, and they want to link clearly to future strategy and where are we going with services and how can I actually support that. So that's what we're hearing back from you as to what you want to deliver. So what can property do to help that? What can property information do to help that? I guess the one fundamental thing that I believe in and we believe in as an organization is good quality data and the necessary information will give you the opportunity to make decisions that will be better in the long term for the council. It will drive the sorts of benefits in terms of cost savings, capital receipts, and generating more income. The good property information will do that. And the fundamentals to that property information that we would see is gaining and gathering the minimum necessary information, not the maximum. So it is the kind of, as I've said there, it is the kind of the lean approach. Why would you collect information? And collecting information on all of your property costs money. And it costs time. And time isn't something that you have a lot of, given some of the discussions today. You can't spend the time that Carol did in terms of getting to good property information. You can't spend 2 years. The pressure is now on that you've got to respond faster than that. So targeted information. So only gather the information that is going to drive the decision making that you want to do. If property information does not drive something as an output, as a report, or some information back to chief executives, then why would you collect it? It's not worth it. And areas of the estate, there are some areas of the estates which will be less important time-wise to gather the information on than others. So targeted information, and only collect it if it's linked to an outcome, if it's linked to a report that comes out. The sorts of information split into 3. Identifiers that identify the building and the information about the building, whether it's freehold, leasehold, that sort of information. True financial cost, true financial information. Important that it's true. I would also say that only make it current and future information. Historical information. Astonished that some people collect historical financial information. It's of no relevance. Current information is of relevance. What's even more relevant is what is your estate going to cost in 3 years' time from now. And in terms of profiling it and putting something back in terms of information to chief executives, that's what they want to know. What are these decisions that you're making now going to mean to the property cost in 3 years' time? That's the important stuff. And the performance information so that you can actually look at the individual performance of buildings. You need that information hosted and recorded effectively. There's numerous systems out there in terms of asset management systems. My experience of it and my recommendation on it is don't go for the most complex thing. Make it the simplest thing. What this is about getting data in one place that's accurately hosted and can be accessed readily. So you don't have to go for the all singing and all dancing. The simplest of systems is sometimes the best, but it needs to be hosted, and you need to be able to host the systems well. You need to maintain it. There is little point in gathering lots of accurate financial information, performance information about your properties, and then finding that 2 days later it's actually out of date because you've done something, you changed something. You need it to have it integrated with the property processes so that anything you do on a day-to-day basis updates the property information, and therefore it keeps it accurate. Clear and concise reporting. The ability to bring back property information spread across all of the property attributes that are there is very cumbersome and it's very large. What you really need to have is some way of pulling that information into a concise format that you can show and is alive and real to people. So you can take it to members, you can take it to chief executives, and you can show them the information that's held and how that information can be used. And most importantly, you need it so that you can actually pull that information into scenario planning so that you can actually see what decisions might be made, and again, what change that is going to make to the cost of property or cost of the estate in 3 years' time. And the final bit that I think is gathering pace, but I would say that this is the real core and real gem. If you can actually integrate your information with other people's information at a local level, talked about the sort of property vehicles at a local level. If you can integrate that information with the educational estates, with the health estates. That is where you get the real gems. That is where you will start to see the real savings in terms of property costs and make some really important decisions. But then the ability to also host that on a wider basis. Look at the integration of that information with other central government estate that happens to be in your area, so that the decisions that you can make can be wider. I also think it's important, and one thing we're working with Local Futures as an organisation that does mapping, is looking at being able to host your property information over the socioeconomic information. And we'll talk a bit more of that in the mapping side. But it's important because what it does is it kind of turns the demand model on its head and actually shows you what the demand is like on the ground, and then you can overlay that with your property information. So you can look at it both from the service director's perspective of how they wish to deliver the services within the community, but then also look at the market, the demand for social need inside the community, and how that feeds up. And those two married together, again, it's about increasing the options, it's about increasing the variety and the width of the decisions and the strategic decisions that you can take. So extending that sort of decision-making options. Talked about getting clear and concise information. I'll go on to talk about the dashboard at the minute, but our approach is to look at creating dashboards that allow you to start to examine your property information once you've got it clear and accurately. So at the base level, it's about being able to review properties. So looking at a dashboard and being able to say, this property is performing in this way. This property is delivering these services. This property is situated here, and what does that look like in relation to the market that's there for the services being delivered from that building? The second stage is that you can take that information about a single property, which allows you to make a number of decisions relevant to that property. But what you can do is you can then combine the dashboards to allow you to view all properties that deliver particular services, or compare two buildings together from a performance, from a financial point of view, from utilization points of view. So that you can actually start to compare two buildings side by side now. That, again, offers you a greater width of potential decisions that you can make about whether or not you're going to change the way those buildings are being used to deliver services. And again, you can go on beyond that by extending the dashboard to actually include areas, all property delivering a service within the area. You could look at an individual area, you could look at all buildings delivering services within that area. The potential then to go beyond that and say, let's also include within that the emergency services buildings, the health buildings. So you start to be able to offer wider dashboard reviews. It allows you to compare buildings together and allows you, again, to make another layer, another potential layer of good decisions about how those properties are used, or how you're going to play with the need within those buildings. Ultimately, you're always looking to deep dive by exception. You do not want to get into all the information about every part of your estate. Targeted information, looking at the core estate, looking at the individual parts of the estate, that you, from an intuitive way, will know what is the areas that are most important for me, what areas can I get the biggest wins out of in the shortest possible time. Again, because it's the fundamental of cost. So right across those reviews, getting the information right. The information is the foundation of it, but getting that information right allows you then to extend, and by extending, you're offering yourself an opportunity to make different layers and different width of decisions, different kinds of decisions. The dashboard that I've spoken of, this is what we're developing at the minute, but the simple idea of bringing together information about an individual property, red, amber, green in terms of indicators, about performance indicators in the building, looking at utilization of space, utilization of how much space do individuals use within the building. Is that close to what would be recognized as a sort of target, as a UK-wide target? Looking at the individual utilization of a building, how much of the space is actually individually used. Looking at the financial information, so you can actually put property information. So building a dashboard that brings the information that you've collected to life in one page, clear and concise, and it's accurate, and actually then that is the information that you can share with chief executives, with service directors and others. So you can talk about individual buildings, and then the potential of turning that dashboard to review multiple properties. It also gives you the potential of bringing together different bits of information to create new measures. One that we considered was this concept of well-being of a property. What is the value being delivered by that building to the community? Can you measure it against the cost of actually maintaining that building, of running the services from that building? Is it possible to measure that in terms of getting a feeling as to the well-being of that building? And you can do it from the aspect of services being delivered, from the leaner and greener sustainability approach, and from various aspects. Now, so if that's the aim in terms of delivering that information, how is it that you can actually get that information? And I guess the prospect is, how can you gather it quickly and for the lowest cost? The service and the base level of collecting that information comes from the property information itself. It's about collecting the necessary information, not collecting all of the information, but the necessary information. Starting off from a service that looks at the necessary information that you need, looking at the information you have and creating a gap analysis of what is the difference between what you have today and what you need, and then going about gathering that information and cleansing it and then hosting it on a system. It's about getting the right system in place so that it will actually do that, but a lot of people have those systems already. It's just about actually getting the information in a complete and cleansed way. It's about gathering and making sure you have a complete picture of your estate. So using matching, using land registry information and other bits of information, valuation office information, to make sure that you have actually captured as much as possible of what is within your control, how much you actually own. It's about mapping. A lot of people's information currently is in point data. They'll be able to provide you point data. It's about getting that changed into polygon data so that you can actually look at it accurately on a mapping basis. And it obviously offers you the opportunity to then amend or add into that picture other people's information. So effective recording and supporting the processes, so getting the base and the fundamentals correctly. The next stage is integrating the financial information in with that. It is a challenge. Carol spoke about that today, about gathering the information. And in all cases, you will not have the luxury that Carol did of actually bending people to bring it to one individual place. A lot of cases, you'll have to deal with it, that it's still in a spread environment. But collecting that financial information, putting the integration into the financial systems, and having the analysis that allows you to deliver a true financial cost of individual properties is important to the kind of decision-making process that you need to go about. You need to know that information. It does take time, it is a challenge, but it is necessary in terms of building the information. Again, it's important to look at current and future, not the past. Past really has little reference. It's current and future, but there is a challenge in there that you may have to start to look at changing the way people analyze financial cost in the individual assets, about changing some of the peppercorn rents and other things that are done today in terms of the market. The final stage is the integration of the service information. And it's doing it from two sides. It is both looking at the current and future service requirements as driven by the service directory side, but it's also looking at it from the combination and integration of the socioeconomic information, so that you start to look at demand from two sides rather than one. Integrating that information, looking at the potential space. It's challenging stuff. It's simple in terms of its format, but it's challenging when you take it back into your environments and how you actually have to respond and